There comes a moment in every life when you get tired of pretending, tired of repeating the same patterns. Tired of living beneath the weight of what happened to you or what they said about you. But I came to tell you today that moment isn't your breaking point, it's your breakthrough. Because God didn't create you to stay stuck. He created you to rise, to heal, and to become everything He designed you to be. It's time to break the cycle, not just for you, but for the generations coming after you. Today, we draw a line in the sand. Today, we say, no more bondage, no more fear, no more cycles. Today, we break the cycle and become who God made us to be. You ever look at your life and feel like you're living the same day over and over again? Different situations, different faces, but somehow the same struggle keeps showing up. Same fear, same shame, same cycle, and you begin to wonder, is this just who I am now? Is this all life is ever going to be? But the truth is, cycles don't just happen, they come from somewhere. Somewhere in our past, something we didn't choose, something that was spoken over us, something we inherited before we even knew how to speak for ourselves. Sometimes the cycle started before we even got here. It was passed down generation to generation, pattern after pattern, pain wrapped in silence. And when we don't pause long enough to recognize it, we end up living it out on autopilot, thinking it's normal just because it's familiar. But baby, just because it's familiar doesn't mean it's right. Just because they all did it like that doesn't mean you have to. You were never meant to live trapped in the things that broke them. You are not the cycle, you are the breaker of it. And the first step to breaking the cycle is to see it, to identify it, because what you refuse to see, you can never heal. What you normalize, you'll never confront, and what you won't confront will always control you. So today, I want you to be brave enough to look at your life. I'm not talking about the life you present to people. I'm talking about the quiet places, the patterns in your thoughts, the pain you keep pressing down, the way you sabotage good things before they ever get too close. The cycle is not just in what you do, it's in what you believe about yourself. Some of us are stuck in cycles of fear, afraid to take risks, afraid to speak up, afraid to fail, afraid to succeed. Others are in cycles of people, pleasing, always trying to earn love, always bending, always breaking yourself just to feel accepted. And some of us, let's be real, are in cycles of pain. Pain we never processed, pain that taught us to be numb, pain that made us cold when we used to be soft, pain that made us quiet when we were born to roar, and if we don't name it, we'll keep living it. We'll keep choosing what's broken, because broken feels safer than change. We'll stay in relationships we should have left. We'll chase approval we don't need, and we'll silence the voice God gave us just to survive in rooms we were never called to. But I believe God is stirring something in your spirit right now, not to shame you, not to make you feel guilty, but to wake you up, because cycles break when you get honest. Cycles break when you stop pretending that everything is okay. Cycles break when you stop saying, that's just how I am, and start asking God, is this who you created me to be? Let me tell you something, the enemy doesn't fight what isn't a threat. The cycle was designed to keep you distracted, to keep you doubting, to keep you dim. But the moment you decide to name the cycle, the enemy gets nervous. Because awareness is power. When you can see the pattern, you can start to interrupt it. I know it's not easy. I know some of us were raised in environments where silence was survival, where being strong meant never crying, never asking for help, never showing weakness. But strength isn't in hiding, strength is in healing, and you cannot heal what you won't admit is hurting. Some of you have been carrying cycles that aren't even yours. You're carrying your mother's heartbreak, your father's absence, your grandmother's silence. Cycles that have wrapped themselves around your identity so tightly you forgot who you were underneath. But God is peeling that back. He's not just trying to change your behavior, He's after your beliefs. Because when your mind changes, your life follows. This is the part of the journey where it gets uncomfortable, where the tears start to rise and your heart starts to ache. But don't run from that, lean into it. That discomfort, that's the stretching. That's the space between who you were and who you're becoming. That's where the cycle breaks, in the tension, in the choice, in the moment you say, "This ends with me." I want you to know you are not broken. You are not behind. You are not a mistake. You are the answer to prayers that were whispered generations before you were born. You are the interruption to dysfunction. You are the seed of something new. And if you're willing to look honestly, to speak truthfully, and to invite God into the places you've tried to handle on your own, then baby, the cycle doesn't stand a chance. It's one thing to break a cycle, to call it out, to get honest, to say, "This ends with me." But if you don't replace what was broken with something better, something stronger, something rooted in truth, then all you did was create an empty space. And the enemy loves an empty space. That's why after you break the cycle, you've got to renew your mind. You see, it's not enough to stop doing what you used to do. You've got to start thinking in a whole new way. Because everything you do flows from what you believe. Every choice you make, every relationship you attract, every opportunity you walk into or walk away from, it's all connected to what's going on in your mind. And if your thoughts are still being shaped by trauma, by fear, by rejection, by insecurity, then your freedom won't last. You'll find yourself repeating what you thought you were done with, not because you didn't want change, but because your mind never caught up with your spirit. The Word of God says, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind." That means real change doesn't start on the outside. It starts in your thinking. It starts in the places no one sees, the thoughts that come up when you're alone, the inner voice that whispers when things go wrong. That voice that says you'll never be enough, and nobody really loves you, you always mess it up. Yeah, that one. We don't talk about it enough, but that voice will sabotage everything God is trying to build in you. Because you can't walk in purpose while still carrying poison in your mind, so let's talk about it. Let's deal with it. What lies have you believed for so long that they started sounding like truth? What narratives have you repeated to yourself that didn't come from heaven but from hell? Maybe someone told you you were too much, too emotional, too ambitious, too broken, and instead of challenging it, you agreed with it. You made it part of your identity, but can I tell you something? Just because it was spoken over you doesn't mean it was spoken by God. It's time to challenge those thoughts, to hold them up to the light of truth, to say, "God, if this isn't from you, I don't want it in my mind anymore." You've got to become a gatekeeper for your thoughts. Not everything that knocks on the door of your mind deserves to come in and sit down. Some thoughts need to be evicted. Some patterns need to be shut down before they start spiraling. That's how you protect your purpose, not by pretending everything's okay, but by renewing your mind daily. Renewing your mind means choosing to believe what God says, even when it doesn't match how you feel. It means waking up and declaring, "I am chosen, I am loved, I am called, I am equipped, I am enough," even when you don't see it yet, especially when you don't feel it, because faith isn't about waiting to feel worthy, it's about choosing to walk like you are because God already said so. And let me tell you, this isn't easy, it's a fight, a daily one. The enemy doesn't want you to think differently, he wants you stuck in loops of shame and fear. He wants you overthinking, second guessing, shrinking, but when you start aligning your thoughts with God's truth, you break his grip. You start walking in clarity. You start seeing yourself the way heaven sees you, and baby, that's dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. Some of us have been so used to negative thinking that positivity feels fake. Hope feels risky, but don't let what was comfortable keep you from what is holy. You are allowed to think differently. You are allowed to believe that good things can happen for you. You are allowed to release the mindset that says you have to struggle for everything, that you always have to be strong. That vulnerability is weakness. That's not truth, that's trauma, and God came to heal that too. I want to challenge you to take inventory of your thoughts. Start paying attention. When something painful happens, what's the first thing you tell yourself? When you make a mistake, what's your default inner dialogue? Is it grace or is it guilt? Because if your inner voice doesn't sound like love, it doesn't sound like God. And let me just say, this renewing your mind isn't a one-time event. It's a daily decision, a moment-by-moment process. And the more you lean into it, the easier it becomes to recognize God's voice in your thoughts, to notice when peace is speaking, to hear when the Spirit is nudging you to choose truth over lies. That's how transformation happens. Not all at once, but little by little, thought by thought, truth by truth, because when your mind changes, your vision clears. Your heart softens, your decisions get bolder, your confidence grows. You begin to walk like someone who knows who they are. And that's the real breakthrough, not just breaking cycles around you, but breaking strongholds within you. When your mind is renewed, your life begins to rise, your purpose becomes possible, and the person God made you to be starts to come alive. Some of us think that once we recognize the cycle and start renewing our minds, everything is just supposed to fall into place. Like, okay, God, I did the hard part, I named the pain, I spoke the truth, I shut the door on what broke me, now everything should be smooth, right? But healing doesn't happen in a straight line. It's not neat, it's not clean, healing is messy, healing is layered, healing is holy, but it's hard. You don't just walk out of years of pain and suddenly feel whole overnight. You don't just break a generational pattern and never feel tempted again. No, healing is a daily decision. It's waking up and choosing wholeness when brokenness feels more familiar. It's reaching for peace when chaos has always been your normal. It's allowing God to work in places you've tried to keep locked up for years. And that kind of healing, that takes courage. See, healing requires you to show up differently, not perform. Not pretend, but show up, to sit with your truth, to acknowledge the wounds, to look at what happened and say, this hurt me. This changed me, but it will not define me. Some of us have been taught to ignore the pain, to stay strong, to keep moving. But you can't heal what you keep outrunning. You can't restore what you won't reveal, and I know it's scary. I know it feels risky to go back to places you've buried. But the only way to get free is to feel it, to face it, to let God get all the way in. Healing isn't weakness, it's war. It's spiritual warfare. Because when you choose to heal, you're fighting every lie that told you to stay broken. When you choose to forgive, you're breaking the enemy's hold over your emotions. When you choose to rest, you're resisting the belief that your worth is in your work. Every healing decision is a declaration that says, I'm not who I was. I'm becoming who God always intended me to be. And that process, it won't always be visible. People won't always understand it. They'll see you quieter than you used to be and think you're distant, but really, you're discerning. They'll see you walking away from certain conversations and think you've changed, and they're right, you have changed. You're not available for chaos anymore. You're not tolerating dysfunction anymore. You're not shrinking yourself just to be accepted anymore. Because when God starts healing you, He doesn't just patch you up, He rebuilds you from the inside out. He takes the parts that were shattered and makes something stronger than before. He removes the masks, the coping, the people, pleasing, the striving, and He gives you back your true self. The one He made, the one the pain tried to bury, the one the cycle tried to erase. Some of you are in that rebuilding stage right now. And I need you to know that just because it feels slow doesn't mean it's not working. Healing isn't loud. Sometimes it looks like crying in the car. Sometimes it looks like saying no when you used to say yes, just to keep the peace. Sometimes it looks like boundaries, like therapy, like worship when you don't feel like it. Healing is made up of 1,000 little choices that create something holy, something whole. You're not broken beyond repair. You're being restored on purpose. Every setback, every scar, every lesson, God is using all of it. Not one piece will be wasted. You may not see it yet, but there's a version of you on the other side of this pain who is powerful, rooted, and unshakable. And when you meet her, when you walk into that version of yourself, you'll realize the process was worth it. Not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. God's not in a hurry with your healing. He's patient. He's precise and he's present in every step. You don't have to perform for him. You don't have to pretend you're further along than you are. You can be honest, you can be raw, you can say, God, I want to be healed, but I don't know how. And he'll meet you right there. In your tears, in your questions, in your silence, and don't let anyone rush your healing. Don't let the world's timeline pressure you into skipping your process. What God is building in you is deep. It's lasting, and it's going to bear fruit not just for you, but for everyone connected to you. That's why the enemy tried to stop you, because healed people heal people. Whole people shift atmospheres. Free people free others. You're not just healing for yourself. You're healing for your bloodline, for your children, for your future, for the purpose that's been waiting on the other side of your obedience. So let the healing happen. Let the tears fall. Let the old things go, because God is writing a new story in you, and this time it won't end in brokenness. You've broken the cycle. You've renewed your mind. You've allowed God to begin the healing work deep within your heart. Now what? Now it's time to step into who God made you to be, not who life tried to shape you into, not who the trauma trained you to become, not who other people expected you to be just to make them comfortable. No, now it's time to become her, the woman heaven had in mind from the beginning. You see, God never called you to live small. He never asked you to dim your light. He didn't create you with power and purpose and then expect you to blend in. The moment you said yes to healing, you also said yes to becoming, to evolving, to growing into the version of you that carries glory, that shifts rooms, that leaves a mark. But here's the thing, a purpose will always require participation. You don't drift into destiny. You step into it one bold, trembling, faith-filled step at a time. It's not about waiting until everything is perfect. You're not going to wake up one day and magically feel ready. If the enemy can't trap you in your past, he'll try to paralyze you in your preparation. You'll start overthinking, questioning, doubting. God, are you sure it's me? Yes, it's you. It's been you even when you felt disqualified, even when you thought you were too broken, even when all you could see were the scars. God saw the oil, God saw the fire, God saw the purpose hidden under the pain. So now it's time to move. To stop sitting in fear of failure and start walking in the direction of your calling. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to be polished. You just have to be willing to let God use you, willing to be stretched. Willing to show up even when it's uncomfortable, willing to trust that if He called you, He's going to equip you. Some of you are waiting for a sign, but you are the sign. Your story, your survival, your healing, all of it is evidence that God is still in the business of transformation. People are watching you not because you're perfect, but because you're real, because you're walking with authenticity, because you're not afraid to say, I've been through some things, but look at God. Your life is the message. Your obedience is the sermon. Your becoming is someone else's breakthrough, and I get it, stepping into purpose can feel heavy. Like, God, how can you use me when I still feel so unfinished? But let me tell you, God specializes in using unfinished people. He used a stuttering Moses, a doubting Thomas, a broken Peter, a misunderstood Mary. He's not looking for perfection, He's looking for yes. And if your yes is on the table, He'll do the rest. Some of you have been sitting on dreams. Sitting on books, businesses, ministries, ideas, things God whispered to you in the dark, but fear made you bury them. I need you to hear me. The world needs what God placed inside of you. Your gift was never meant to stay hidden. Your voice was never meant to stay silent. There is someone on the other side of your obedience who is waiting for you to show up. Not just as a version of yourself, but as your whole self, the woman who knows she's anointed, the woman who's done pretending, the woman who's not afraid to take up space. And listen, walking in purpose won't always feel good. Sometimes it will stretch you, sometimes it will isolate you, sometimes it will expose parts of you that still need healing. But that's part of the process. Growth and discomfort walk hand in hand, but you were never meant to stay stuck in survival mode. You were created for impact, for influence, for legacy. And it's time to stop apologizing for the anointing on your life. You're not becoming someone new. You're finally uncovering who you've always been, the real you, the called you. The woman who carries glory even when she's tired. The woman who walks with authority even when her knees are shaking. The woman who knows that favor isn't always flashy. Sometimes it's quiet obedience behind the scenes. But either way, she's moving, she's rising. She's stepping forward because she knows God didn't bring her this far just to leave her here. I know it feels like a lot, but you're not alone. Every step you take, heaven is backing you up. Angels are going before you. Grace is covering you. Doors are opening that no one can shut, and what used to terrify you, now it's about to testify for you. Because you didn't just survive, you were sent. You didn't just heal, you were chosen. You didn't just change, you became.